Really excited about today's panel. Today is all about listings and how to win at the table. We've got three incredible agents here with us today to talk about listings. Everybody wants to get listings. If you follow my brother and fellow, you know listings is leverage. So I'll introduce everybody. If you can go through and maybe give us a little background on who you are. We have Amanda Carter with the agency. We have Amanda Pohlman with KW Living. And then Steph Termine with the Young Team.
Hello.
Steph, you want to start it off with a little bio?
Sure. As Josh said, my name is Stephanie Termine. I am one of the listing partners on the Young Team. I have been in the real estate industry since 2005. I worked for a national home builder for 7 years, and then I got my license in 2012.
I remember when you walked in, newly licensed in 2012.
Yeah.
And like rough, like what is like average year production look like?
Sure. Usually in any given year, probably around 12 to 13 million.
Just 12, 13 million. No big deal. Amanda, what about for you?
I'm Amanda Pohlman, and I was licensed in 2005. And then I started a team in 2012 when I moved to KW. I became a broker in 2020. I run the Pohlman team. I don't do a lot of business myself. I do about 4 to 6% of my team's business. We're having our best year ever. It might end up our best year, kind of a little bit close. And our team does probably close to 90 million. Got about 20 of us.
That's incredible. And then you guys have a really cool partnership with...
we're powered by Place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you explain to people if they don't know what Place is?
Oh my God. Jack.
The real short.
It's really hard to explain, but basically we teamed with Place, which is, it's a tech company, and which, you know, people are like, tech company, okay. It's because it's not a brokerage. I think that's where people don't understand. It's not a brokerage. So we can actually have this kind of team environment at any different brokerage. So I partnered with them in 2020. Chris Suarez and Ben Kinney, for those of you in the KW world, they were two of the top guys who were using expansion, and they came together and basically said, you know, for top teams, top agents, here's a model and a standard of what we can offer them to, I would say, multiply and scale their teams. So we proved the model. I was the first one in Ohio, and we're about 480 teams now across the nation.
It's incredible.
And we're good. Yeah, we're a good brand.
Amanda, what about you?
Hi, Amanda Carter. I'm with the agency Cleveland. Been doing this about 8 years. I started briefly with KW Cervenic, down more in the Summit County area, Akron, with Anna and Chris. Parked my license with EXP for about 5 years, and then about 2 years ago switched to the agency when they came to Ohio. So very excited to be here, by the way. Thank you. Average production, well, it's kind of hard to say. Last year was actually one of my worst years, but I have since tripled last year's production already, so it's my comeback year. So pacing for about 15 million this year, I believe. Yeah.
All right, so let's, we're gonna jump in. I've got some like pre-scripted questions, and then we'll open it up to all of you, hopefully if we have some time. But let's start at the top. Amanda, how do you prepare before every listing appointment, and what does your pre-appointment routine look like?
Sure. So I do a lot of previously withdrawn and expired listings. So these are office leads. So our ISAs set the appointment. So I really make sure to get on the phone with them. Try to obviously learn, you know, as much about the property as possible, but really about the client and their unique personality. I think it's super important to tailor your pitch and presentation based on, you know, who you're meeting with. So I like to keep things pretty informal. I mean, honestly, I pretty much print out the basics: MLS sheet, realist report, just some preliminary comps. I like to keep it loose so that we can kind of pivot while we're at the appointment. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Amanda, what about for you?
How to prepare. So I leverage the things that I'm not good at. So we also have a VA that will kind of in the back end make sure that I'm ready for the appointment, although I'm obviously looking at comps, and I'm doing 555, so I'm going through with my clients what's listed, kind of put your hat on as a buyer, how does this compare to your house, and then what's actually gone on under contract in the last 30 days. We have nice listing presentation tools, but I think at the end of the day, we do mostly follow the routine of our listing presentation, but also personalizing it. asking lots of questions up front so that you know the style type of the person you're meeting, and then really going through what the marketing program looks like. So they want to know what you're going to provide and how you're going to get them to their desired future, and really being familiar with that and walking through it is part of kind of the A game to have them say yes to hiring you.
Love it. Steph, you know the answer I'm looking for. I'm going to do my best to not chime in. I will say this, I probably have sold, 450 listings myself in the last 6 years. So I have some knowledge on this, but I'm going to try to let Stephanie speak for me the whole time.
He's gonna try.
We'll tell you to stop if you try to interrupt.
I think for me, before I even go on the appointment, I think what Amanda Carter alluded to is a pre-listing phone call, right? We have an ISA team, which is awesome, and they take a ton of notes for me, but I want to warm up that relationship so that they know who's coming to their house to meet with them. So we do a pre-listing phone call. I go through what's most important to them, what's motivating them to move. I ask them, besides price, what's the most important thing for us to discuss while I'm at your home? And then I think, it's obviously gathering data, as the other two ladies alluded to. I'm looking for what's currently on the market, how long has it been sitting, if they've taken price adjustments, how quickly are things moving. And I agree, I don't want it to be super formal, but I think being prepared with that information is important, as well as the marketing. I have examples of our photography, our listing brochures, our presentation that we sort of go through. And then honestly, on the way to the appointment, I'm sometimes listening to a podcast about real estate or scripting that I have ready to go, just to get myself in the mindset of walking into that appointment prepared.
Cool. So let's talk about the appointment. Do you use a formal listing presentation, or do you prefer a more organic approach?
So I'm very organic, maybe a little too informal for most people. But honestly, I like to just focus on really getting to connect with the client, learning them, the property, what are your goals? And obviously, if you've been on the market previously, what were your struggles before? What did that experience look like with the previous brokerage? I like to walk and talk, so I encourage just starting off with a basic tour of the property. I let them know, I'm not looking at my phone, I'm taking notes. I want to really make sure I have this all recorded, so when we go to market, I've got everything ready to go. So yeah, it's really just about, making them comfortable. Sorry, I'm going to look at my notes here. I do bring some sample marketing materials, as Stephanie mentioned, just basic brochures and stuff like that, so they can see the quality of our marketing. But I don't, dwell on the brokerage too much. I think if you're, too salesy or over the top or just spewing information about yourself and the brokerage, it really prohibits them from connecting with you. So yeah, I let them know, on the way out the door that, I will be sending a more formal proposal. So within about 24 to 48 hours, you're going to get this in your inbox. It will have a much more detailed description of our marketing process, what we're going to do for you, obviously suggested list price, and a corresponding net sheet, so you can really have a clear picture of what you're going to walk away with.
So do you ever, add in this, do you ever sign a listing at the initial appointment, or do you always follow up with stuff?
So I'd say 98% of the time I do not. I don't like to seem too pushy. I like to show that I'm confident, it's going to be my listing. I'm going to send you the proposal, and then when you approve it, you're going to sign those documents. So I don't like to force that on them unless they've requested to do so. So if they say bring it, I'm ready to go,
okay,
then yeah.
Amanda, what about for you? You kind of touched on earlier, not complete formal. How do you find that, blend that line?
Yeah, so we do have really nice brochures and things that we can present to the client, but if you just throw them in front of them and you're not going through them, you're not, getting the value over to them on what you can do to move them from A to B. I agree with Amanda, sitting down and kind of asking them what their motivation is the most important thing. And that is always the start of the listing appointment, and kind of getting clues. I love to pull out the Zestimate right at the beginning and say, hey, have you looked at Zillow? And sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, and then you just hold up the Zestimate because you've printed it off and say, what do you think about this number? I love to get the clues right up front, and then they'll usually tell me a lot without them realizing they're telling me a lot, so that I can kind of gauge what they're thinking. Like I said, when we're going through the actual marketing of the property, I think it's very important for them to know and understand the steps. because they're looking for us to be the experts. They trust us, and we have to come across with that kind of confidence that this is what we do to move them from A to B so that they can buy into it. So I do believe in a formal listing, at least a structure around it, so that you are asking for the close. And I would say 98% of the time we are closing those appointments when we do them. The other reason why I think it's good, and we train the team on kind of the listing presentation, is so we don't waffle and waffle and waffle and take so much time. I'm very cognizant of people's time. We start on time, we end on time. I think it's a very respectful thing to show up 5 minutes early. You have to be on time. The worst thing is not to be on time. And to, when you're sending the calendar invites and you're saying, Janelle, I'm going to meet you from 1 to 2, the expectation is that you're going to walk out of that door with the listing appointment signed at 2 o'clock. So, and I've learned that the hard way because I've waffled a lot in the beginning and probably wasted a lot of time on listing appointments.
Waffle?
Waffled, yes. It means like non-stop talking, and you just keep talking and talking and talking, and then you're not getting to the point, and maybe at the end of it, the client thinks, I don't even know if I want to hire them. They might like me, but they might not trust me to sell their home.
Steph, what about for you?
I agree with Amanda Pohlman. Like, I don't have necessarily a formal packet that I'm putting in front of them every single time. We have awesome seller books that I bring with me, and we typically go through it to an extent, but I agree, I like a little bit more organic. I think sometimes when it feels very like structured and salesy, it's much more difficult to connect with the seller and truly understand like what's important to them. So I actually have a pre-listing marketing packet that I email to most of my clients with some information so that they're kind of already like familiar and warm. And then when I get to their house, oftentimes we're sitting down at the table before I even take a tour, because the reality is like within a certain range, I know what the house is worth, right? Like barring any unforeseen circumstances, because I've had so much prep with a pre-listing phone call. I know what they've done in terms of updates in the last 5 years. Oftentimes I can see pre-list, pictures from when it was last listed, so I have an idea of what the property looks like. So I'm really just trying to sit down and connect with them and understand what's important, and then really build a game plan and a strategy that is tailored to what they're looking to do.
Nice. And maybe it's the pre-listing stuff you talked about emailing over, but Steph, what's one thing you've added to your listing presentation that's made a big difference in conversion?
So for me, because oftentimes, we're getting phone calls about people who are potentially exploring a cash offer versus taking the house to market traditionally, or they're thinking maybe fall's the right market, but they might wait until spring. I kind of put together like a 1-page sheet of like, okay, here's your options, right? Option number 1 is cash offer. Option number 2 is taking this to market in the fall. Option 3 is taking this to market in the spring. And then I sort of outline like the pros and cons of each of those scenarios. And then we're having a conversation about it while I'm sitting there, and I'm like, which one of these resonates the most with you? Okay, option number 2, great. Let's talk about how we bring your house to the market this fall then. And we sort of game plan around that option. I just feel like when you lay it out like that for them, it makes it a lot easier to really sort of just build the momentum on, okay, we're gonna do this in the next month, and here's how we're gonna make it happen.
Nice. Amanda, what about for you? What's something you've added?
So we've always had it, is our concierge, and our concierge happens to be a person. It's Graham Pritchard. I think a lot of you know him. He's like our British, I could say he looks like a butler because he's always in his suit. I would say that has always been a little bit of our secret sauce, is the fact that we talk about what Graham does to support the seller and to support whoever the agent is. And a lot of the time, especially in the beginning when I was doing most of the team's production, Graham would come along to the appointments because he's kind of the yin to my yang, and he's really good if I've got, for example, a very high C person that wants to talk much slower, ask a lot of questions, and Graham is really good at kind of being the opposite to my a little bit more speedier presentation in some cases. Graham is also part of the kind of the feeling of the seller getting a little bit more, because we're obviously having to explain a team concept, that because we're a team, we can't sit and say, I'm going to do everything for you, and you're always going to see me. So it's really easy for us to kind of sell Graham on how he's meeting the photographer, how he's going through the home and notating absolutely everything about the home, from the style of the appliances to the makes, the models, so that we have everything that we need to know to get that seller top dollar on the home. Graham is also kind of it's like when I'm in an appointment and you need something, guess what? There's more than one person that you also have at your disposal. Whether Graham's been known to walk dogs, he's been known to go with a ice pick and chop off ice from key lock boxes that are frozen, and that to us has always been something that can always do, and it just sets us apart on our listing presentation and then on the client's full experience.
Love that. Amanda, what about for yourself?
For me, one thing that I noticed a really sharp change in conversion was when I started providing a list of past sales and kind of references. So with especially, the previously expired and withdrawn listings, this was their experience the first time or third or whatever time on the market with a different brokerage. And then this is what we did when we took it over. So showing them that, we got something done, a lot quicker or, for top dollar compared to, the previous brokerage who never sold it, just kind of speaks volumes, and it's proof. So we can, talk about the brokerage and all this lofty stuff all we want, but here's, the evidence, so.
Nice. Let's talk about building some rapport. How do you build rapport quickly with a new seller, especially if they're interviewing multiple agents?
I mean, it's going to sound cheesy, but honestly, just walk in confident and be genuine. I think if you, like I said before, if you're too salesy, if you're just talking about yourself and showing off, they can't connect with you. They're going to move on to the next person who resonates with them a little bit better. Yeah, if they smell fear, they're going to fear that you can't get the job done. And then also, just let them know, like, I know you're probably, doing your due diligence and interviewing multiple agents, but I'd really love the opportunity to improve and, alter my proposal if I'm neck and neck with somebody else, so.
Amanda, what about for you?
Yeah,
How
I
do you
think the
build
rapport is built from the very first time you connect with them on the phone. So you've got to find that connection and build that rapport, in the first, I would say, 1 minute. For me, I have an advantage because my accent might come up, and then people will tell me that, do you know someone in Glasgow, Scotland? And, and I'm like, actually, no, but, or I've just visited England. So that's a rapport builder. If for some reason you're not having a conversation, which, most of the time we are, right? But let's just say something's coming in, an appointment's booked for you, then I think it's showing them very quickly how efficient you are. Something as easy as calendar invites have kind of changed my life. I get off the phone, I go into my calendar, I'm setting up the listing appointment, I'm sending over the calendar invite because I asked them for the email right away. So I'm not gonna, again, waffle on and forget the email. And right there, they've got the calendar invite. And everything is very professional and very well done. And it sets the tone that they're hiring an expert. And then, as you walk in, if for some reason you haven't gained rapport, I go in with my British satchel. Again, it's something that they're going to say something about. Find something that you see immediately if there's kind of this weirdness that you can connect with them. We have to work to connect with them pretty quickly.
Young team members, we're going to be enrolling you all in accent classes after this. So
well, with AI, I think anybody can speak anyhow.
Steph, what about for you? How do you build rapport?
I think, again, for me, it goes back to the pre-listing phone call. And again, they've both alluded to it, right? Like, one of the questions that we ask are, like, what are the top 3 things you're looking for in the agent you choose to hire to sell your house, right? And then I sort of reiterate that when I'm on the phone with them. I ask them what's most important for us to discuss. And then I'm tailoring everything we're talking about to what they've said, because I think sometimes they forget that they even told you that, right? And then it's almost like, oh my God, you read my mind. Like, how did you know that was important to me? It's like, well, you told me, you just don't remember that, right? So I think that helps just go a long way for building rapport, like listening and showing them that you're talking about what they said was important to them, I think goes a really long way. And I think just coming from curiosity, like genuinely trying to understand what's important to them, what they're looking to achieve, and how you can help them hit that goal, I think goes a long way too for building rapport. I think, especially if I'm in a competitive situation, a lot of other agents are being flashy and they're talking about all these things and they're not truly listening to the client. And I think when you show that you're listening and paying attention, it goes a long way.
Love it.
So true.
Let's talk about price. How do you approach pricing conversations, especially when a seller's expectations are unrealistic? Steph, you want to start with this one?
Sure. I think we have conversations about what's possible versus what's probable, right? Like, it's possible that we can hit X price, and I would love nothing more than to set a record in the neighborhood for you. And you told me it's super important that you want to be moved to Tennessee by the end of the year. So while it's, again, possible that we will find someone in this time frame that will pay this price for your home, how probable is it, right? And I think when you talk about that, sometimes it resonates with people to say like, oh yeah, maybe I can't test the market the way I want to because I am on a deadline, right? And I think just going over the data, like that's why while I don't always go over the CMAs that I bring, like having them there to say, here, look at this house. It started at X. It ended up over list by 5%. That was clearly priced to sell, right? Versus the house that's been sitting for 45 days. They've taken 2 price adjustments. Like which one of these sellers do you want to be, right? I think that sort of, again, resonates with people. I'm never going to argue necessarily with a seller over price unless we are on very different pages, right? I think I just help them game plan like, okay, you want to test the market, here's what that's going to look like, right? We'll start here. If we don't have X amount of showings in the first 14 days we're on the market, my suggestion would be we adjust the price to X. And we're just setting those expectations up front so that they're not surprised by it later.
Cool. Let's double up on this before we move to Amanda. Steph, what's your go-to line or strategy when a seller says another agent says they can sell it at this price?
I've had a lot of that lately. I don't know that it's necessarily a go-to line because I think that probably involves some sort of conversation. But again, I think I just welcome it. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. You know, help me understand, like, where did they get that number from? And it's often met with like a look of in silence, right? And it's like, okay, you know, I'm just curious. Like I have access to, you know, the same information that they have. So I'm just sort of wondering where they have the confidence that they can get you this for the house when this is what I'm seeing in the market. And I think what I sort of have a conversation with a seller about oftentimes is at the end of the day, like the listing price is an invitation to come see the house. Ultimately, buyer demand in the market is what determines value. Would you agree with that? And they're like, yeah, totally, right? Like if a buyer wants my house and enough buyers want my house, I'm gonna end up in a bidding war over listing price. It's like part of our job as your realtor is to position you attractively in the market to drive interest in people through the door versus just throwing this number out there and hoping we get it, right? So I think when you educate them and have that conversation, oftentimes they're like, okay, let's go with a more reasonable number. And again, and if they don't, then it's like, okay, here's what it looks like if we choose to start here, maybe we end up here.
Love it. Amanda, what about for you? How do you approach pricing?
Yes, I'm going to tell you a story. So I went to a ranch in Lyndhurst a couple of weeks ago and, you know, did the comps, did the pre-work. They told me they'd done a lot of updates. And when I walked into the appointment, I had in my mind where I thought the price would be. And, you know, we all kind of know a range, don't we? I did my clue. Here's Zillow. What do you think? Went through from the auditor's site what they've done to the house to kind of verify, is it still a 3-bedroom? Does it still have, you know, and then they tell you what they've done or what they haven't done. And then when they're locked in on a price and then in this case, this one was about 80,000 more than I would have listed it for. I went straight to, now let's put the buyer hat on and let's see the houses that went under contract in the last 30 days. And I think it's important for us to know and understand what's going on attrition-wise in every city. We're like economic experts right now because we need to know what's affecting the different cities and whether it's a 3 months on the market or whether it's still trending to be a buyer's market, you know, under a few weeks. And so as you go through that process with them, they are telling you why their house is not as nice as that one, which, by the way, is now sold, is now under contract or has sold for 50,000 less than this pie-in-the-sky price they had. And I just move them to the understanding that you're in a price range at which it's a smart price, where buyers are going to see it, they're going to want to come in. Now, we talk about a push-it price. If there's a push-it price, which arguably we can get away with in some areas in this market, I'm very clear with them. If you want to push it, Susan, I will be thrilled if I am wrong and we get that price. So this is the push it price, but can we agree, again, like Stephanie says, if we don't get 10 to 12 showings in the first, I'm just gonna say week, that price means that they've come in, we're gonna look at the objections, and that the price is wrong, and that's why you're not getting offers, and can we take it down to the price at which I suggested? Because we're a team, and I talk a lot about teamwork, it's our pricing together. So I want them to be vested in it, but I don't want to be battling them, because there's no point in taking a listing where you're fighting them from the very beginning and they just have numbers that you just can't do. I'd rather be the bridesmaid and come in later and say, told you so, now let's get to work. So.
And how do you handle if they say, oh, agent X said
I said this one,
number?
yeah. So when the agent says they can list it for more, I will say, because I can get away with humor, I'll say, show me the check. Did they write a check? Really? Did Susan write you a check when she came along? And then I'll say, after all, anybody can buy your listing, but what it comes down to is I'm here to sell your listing. So I just kind of, use the humor and hope that they get it.
It's the key, that hope they get it.
Yeah, because I think they know that my approach is one that I am confident with the pricing, because I can go in with my statistics and say, on average, my list to sell ratios are, and my days on market are, because I know my numbers and I know the market. And I think that comes across when you're confident. You have to be confident.
For sure. Amanda, what about for you? How do you handle pricing?
I think if they're being a little stubborn or they're set on a price that's unrealistic, just ask them for permission to tell them what they need to hear. So asking for the permission establishes respect. So I value what you're saying and what you want to do, but the truth is, it's not based on, what you paid for the house, what you put into it. It's about what a buyer is willing to pay in the current market. So they've kind of already, talked about the, if we have slow activity in the first X amount of days, this is what we're going to do. And you can even go, as far as to write that into the listing agreement. So if after 3 weeks we haven't had sufficient showings or, whatever, we're going to drop it to this specific price. So be very, specific and keep them in line and manage expectations.
And what happens if they say another agent can get X for it?
I think, like she said, just go back to the comps. Because I can't tell you how many times I've actually looked at the comps that other agents left, and I'm like, this radius is it's a bit wide. It's not the same school district. What's going on here? So just to point those things out, and they're instantly like, oh, okay.
You
they didn't
check
even know.
other people's homework.
Yeah, and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. I'm being honest, and the facts are the facts, and this is what my comps look like, and it's not adding up.
Then you got to go with Amanda's humor. It's like, it's interesting that the other agent pulled this house from Hunting Valley for your ranch in Lyndhurst. That does seem to be skewing the comps a little bit.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk. This is probably the other thing. Pricing and commission is probably the thing everybody wants to hear about more than anything. We'll start with you, Amanda. How do you handle commission objections in a way that builds trust instead of tension? And I'm going to ask another question of all three of you. You do not have to answer it if you don't want to. If you're comfortable sharing with the group, when you walk into an appointment, what is your gold standard commission that you're asking for?
Well, I'll just start right with that. Like I said, I do a lot of previously expired listings, so I tell them, normally I'd charge you 4% on my side, but because I want to incentivize a buyer's agent and I want to get you a better result this time around, I'm going to do 3. My team will approve 3. We'll do that for you, making it look like you're kind of doing them a favor. And, just being transparent or direct with them and saying, discounting agents get you discount results. There's a reason why a lot of for sale by owners, if they sell, they typically only save 1 to 3% in commission, but they're netting, maybe 10 to 30% less than what they could have with an agent. It costs money to market your property, so I'm not going to skimp. I'm going to go above and beyond probably what the majority of my competition is going to do for you.
Love that. Amanda, what about for you? If you're comfortable with gold standard commission and
I'm going in and as we're filling out the listing, because I usually don't talk commission at all until we're filling out the listing agreement, and I will say our fee is 3.5%, and then I will talk about the NAR settlement. Do you know what happened? Are you comfortable? Do you have an understanding that this is the fee that you're paying the brokerage, which is my brokerage and myself, and that the buyer may come along and they may also ask, as has been usual previously, for the seller to contribute to the buyer's agent commission. I love having talks about money and commission. I love it because really it comes down to what is the net that you're looking for, which is why it's so important to have net sheets and to offer net sheets, because sometimes the only objection you're getting with pricing or with commission is that they don't know what that net is. So I'm often doing net sheets on the spot, at least, rather generally, so that I can tell them. I mean, I'm often will say your cost of sales is going to be approximately, and don't hold me to this, with your commissions, your excise tax, your title fees, etc., about 8%. And I'll always say, and I'm going to overestimate it because I don't want you coming back to me and being unhappy that I told you a number and it was actually more than that. So let's just talk 8%, and then I will do the net sheet with them. And doing the net and understanding what they want to put in their pocket and saying, how much do you need to go to Denver and buy your next home? What are you looking at to get out of this house? You're just on this playing field where they just trust you. And then I will use the analogy of, when people, I've had a couple of people, not very many, I think we can all agree, not very many of these tough conversations that we thought we were going to have non-stop since August 2024. Was that when it was?
Yeah,
a year ago.
Yeah.
Feels like ages ago. But I will often talk to them about, I lost my train of thought there, crap. I will talk to them about the net is important, and I can't remember what I was going to say.
Real quickly for everybody, if you're
Can't
giving
remember
like
that
a
part.
rough estimate of 8%, break that down like high level for the group.
Yeah, I would say I look at the price of their home and I go through. I say your title fees are going to be approximately 2%. Your excise tax is going to be, this is what likely this I charge, and then what they're going to come in on the buy side.
Okay, so it's your commission, potential buyer commission, and
and a home warranty
title,
and miscellaneous.
okay.
But I think they want to have that understanding on what it's going to cost, and the more transparent that we are, and the more that we can talk about money with them, the more comfortable they are. And then they just trust you, because that's a tough conversation that doesn't need to be so tough.
Love it. All right, Steph, commission conversation and gold standard.
So I'll start with gold standard. Depending on price point, I would say 4 to 5% is what we are asking for for our portion of the listing agreement. Obviously, buyer agent commission is separate from that. And I think
to clarify, right, written into our listing agreement ahead of time is what?
only our portion of the listing
But
commission.
what's the number
For who?
for the?
Us?
Yes, us.
Like I said, 4 to 5%.
What's written into the listing paperwork?
4 to
5%.
Oh, in our
Yes.
listing paper. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, go on.
And it's negotiable.
Yes.
It is definitely negotiable.
Not set by law and negotiable.
That's also written in.
Yes, negotiable.
Yes, our standard listing agreement asks for 5%. Depending on the price point, I am asking for 4 to 5%, and I cross it out if needed.
Yep. Sometimes cross it out, go 6. Right.
Sometimes, depending on the client, we go higher. No. So that is what I'm asking for standard. And I think for me, I try to not even have them ask. I often am the one bringing it up and talking about it, because I don't want it to become a point of contention or this, weird conversation later. So I often welcome it up front, and I'm like, hey, listen, because of everything we just talked about that we do, we have a listing department, we have professional photography, the marketing, et cetera, et cetera. Our commission is X. I understand that you're interviewing other agents, and I am certain that we are not the least expensive option in town. However, our track record is such that, and we sort of have a conversation about what we've helped other, sellers in the area achieve, that ultimately they're looking for the net, and, with these numbers that we're talking about, we're going to get them there. I think if it becomes this point of contention where it's like, well, the other agent told me 3.5, whatever it is, it's like, okay, why don't we do this? If I get you X for your house, our commission is 4. If it sells for somewhere between A and B, my commission is C, or can we agree on that? And it's like, my goal is to get them to sign then. So I don't want it to become this, again, awkwardness of we're arguing over commission.
Love it. All right, so we've covered price, we've covered commission. This next question might be a little bit different for Steph and Amanda than for Amanda. But Steph, so you talked about commission. How do you convert now into closing them while you're there?
For me, it's the assumed next step, right? A lot of our ISAs, our internal sales associates, are sort of setting the expectation during that initial phone call. If everything, during our presentation makes sense when Stephanie comes out to your house on Tuesday evening, are you prepared to sign paperwork? they always say yes to the ISA. They never say no. It rarely says no on that form. So I bring it up again on my pre-listing phone call with them. It's like, okay, you know, what are, again, the top 3 things you're looking for in the agent you choose to sell your home? What are the 3 most important things, 2 most important things for us to discuss while I'm there? I make sure that's what we spend the bulk of our time talking about. And then I think for me, it's just like, okay, so from here, these are the next steps. We're gonna go over your seller homework. I need these from you before we go to the market. We'll go over the listing paperwork, you know, and we'll get started on the plan that we sort of outlaid. And I would say at least half the time, they're just like, yep, okay, because they were prepared for it. They knew it was coming. I have the folder on the table. They obviously know what's in the folder, right? I open it and we're talking about it. So I would say 50% of the time, it's just the assumed next step.
Love that. Amanda, what about for
Yeah,
you?
I'm the same. It's the assumptive close. When I'm at that front door, my mindset is I'm walking away with this listing. So the expectation is that I'm doing a lot of closing along the way. And again, I use it kind of humorous sometimes, like, yes, tell me a little bit more. Oh, we just put this front door on and it's so pretty, but we can't open it, but we have to use a key for the back door. And I'll say, yeah, don't worry, I've got my lockbox in the car. You know, we're ready for that. I'm saying things as if I've got the listing. So if they're bringing up objections, you know, I don't want open houses, or I don't want people coming in my house just looking, you know, talking about what our process is to make sure that we have qualified buyers and having 2 people at open houses, you know. So I'm assuming it, and then I'm getting right to work. My first piece of signed paperwork is the next steps. So this is when we're doing photographs, this is when we're going live, this is when you're having your first open house, and here's your seller homework. So I'm filling it out in front of them. So the assumption is that we're getting started. And I will say, let's get this party started. Ready to go, you know. So I'm just
Picturing Amanda like bringing out a little like speaker, just starting it.
But it is an assumption, and then there will be people that might stop me. I think actually I got so far with this Lyndhurst one, we were ready, and then they go, well, it's great having an appointment with you, and we definitely want to hire you, but we are going to have to talk to the other agents about hiring you, because we also said, and I'm like, oh, well, I can take care of that for you. Are you telling me you're having, you know, a little bit of an issue calling those agents? And I was like, do you want me to call them for you? I said, I've done it in the past. I'm happy to. What would you like me to do? And they said, we just want you to call the agents. They just were embarrassed. No, but it was nice. I called the agent. She was like, thank you so much for telling me. It was just because it's going to be a nice conversation. I'm not going to sit there and be like, Morgan, I just listed the house. I'm going to be like, Morgan, hey, I just wanted you to know that my seller wanted me to tell you that I am listing that house, and they really liked you, and I hope that you can bring a buyer. I really want to do a deal with you because I love working with you.
95% of the time or more, if you offer it, they will take you up on calling the other agents. I did have one client who looked at me like I was crazy, and he's like, why would I have you call? He's like, I'm going to call him right now in front of you and you can listen to the conversation.
Oh, I love that.
And he literally called 3 agents on speakerphone and basically fired them in front of me. And he's like, we're good to go.
You've got to be comfortable doing uncomfortable things. That's all it comes down to. And they trust you and they believe in you when they can see that you're comfortable with that.
Amanda, you said high 90s, you do not get paperwork signed up front. That's not your method.
Not on the spot, no.
What does that conversation look like, and then how soon do you follow up afterwards?
So basically everything they said, I think it's just about assuming the sale, you know, giving them the timeline and next steps, and then creating the sense of urgency. So I do that. I throw my photographer under the rug, basically. So he's super busy. I need to reserve your spot right now. I need a signed listing agreement to do that. So you're going to have this proposal in your inbox within, whether it's hours, you know, days, whatever. I'll shoot you a text when it comes, so you know it didn't go to your spam folder. You can review it quickly, and then you're also going to have a separate email from Dotloop. Just click and sign, and we'll get it booked. So just kind of creating a clear picture of what we're going to do. And
do you go over paperwork when you're in the appointment, or you just send it to them digitally?
Nope, digitally. Yep.
Gotcha.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have like a what you're signing, which Mary Jo actually came to me and was like, my clients are asking lots of questions, and it was so good. Like, this is what you're signing. This is why you're signing this. This is what this is, and that was really helpful, wasn't it? But wow, yeah. But you go over the paperwork, so they kind of know what to expect.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's incredible. It's so interesting to see how differently, like there's so many similarities and so many differences.
Yeah.
Amanda, what about for you? Have you ever not gotten a listing and later won it back through follow-up? What did that look like?
So I'm looking at my notes. It says, I don't think so. I can't remember a time. Sorry.
That's fair. Short answer.
Yeah.
I also struggled with that because I don't know that I got it back, because it sounds to me like the follow-up would be something negative about another agent. I love to know why I didn't. So I'm going to be like, Janelle, I would so appreciate you being really honest with me. Tell me what I could have done differently. Not what I could have done better. And I love them talking to me, and I praise them for it. Thank you for your honesty. You know, you could have just, blanked me and not told me, and I go around for the next year wondering what the hell I said or did wrong. I learn a lot from that too, but most of the time, it's that there was some relationship, and they'll say, you were as good as Marty. We loved you. We were going to hire you, but then suddenly Marty walked in, and we found out that, and you acknowledge that, and you praise them because you like them. And I will say, especially if one of my agents is like, I wanted that listing, I didn't get it. I'll say to them, would you do Laura a favor, MJ a favor? Will you make sure that you go talk about our team to 5 more people and find us 5 referrals? They're like, yes, of course we will. No, just make it positive, because we're not going to win them all. And we've got some great agents out there. Sometimes I'm like, damn, yeah, that was the best agent there.
Can I piggyback off that?
Yeah, of course.
I think it is important to stay positive.
Yes.
I won a listing. The seller, he was so tired of getting calls from agents when his previous listing expired that he held an open house. So we all interviewed together. There were about 8 to 10 agents there. We ended up winning, and 2 of those agents called him and bashed the agency.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, that is just something I would never do. So if I find out Laura won, I'm going to say, oh, Laura's awesome. You're in good hands.
Yep.
Good luck.
Totally agree.
Because it's always going to come back around, and why would they refer you to somebody if you're just negative and bad-mouthing other people?
And those of us in this industry that know what it was like when it was a complete buyer's market and we couldn't sell any listings, you can be a bridesmaid once or twice and get a listing because it didn't sell the first time or the second time with the agents. So,
Steph, what about for you?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Sure. Have you ever not gotten the listing and later won it back through follow-up? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think for a variety of reasons, sometimes people are just not ready when you're sitting in front of them. Maybe it's a divorce situation and they're just not on the same page and they won't sign paperwork together, or it's a situation where mom and dad have passed and it needs to go through probate. Like, there's all kinds of reasons that people can't or don't sign at the table. So I think with those situations, I'm outlining a very clear, like, here's what is going to happen next, so that I'm leaving there with a plan. Like, you're going to hear from me about X, Y, and Z. I'm going to follow up with you on Wednesday to talk about this, and I think it's just staying in front of them, right?
Yeah, I'll chime in with 2 different scenarios that I've had. One is, they let you know they're going in a different direction, and it's like, you do stay positive, you follow up with them, ask for feedback and all that. And it's like, I've had people reach back out to me because they thought they were hiring another agent, and the agent didn't do anything they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
They said they had a professional photographer, they said the photography was going to happen, they could get the house on the market tomorrow, and they realized it was a bunch of BS, and so they would come back. And then we had a scenario, I took a listing maybe 2-3 years ago, and the lady was not really ready to sell the house. Her motivation was not great. We did list it, but we listed it at an absurd number, and she really didn't want to hear about it. And we ended up pulling it off the market, but we kept her on all of our marketing. She came to our Pi Day. Nothing changed, and she ended up hiring 2 different agents after us. She said, you guys were so good, I loved you guys, but it's I think, my neighbor said I got to try something different. And she hired a different brokerage. And we kept her on our mailing list, and she came to Pi Day, and she kept getting in our newsletter. And then that didn't work out. And then she hired another agent. And after that didn't sell, 2.5 years later, she called back to us, and she's like, you guys have been so gracious, you're staying in touch with me, not about selling my house, but everything else. And she said, now I'm really ready to sell. Let's sell. And so it was you never know how these things go. To be the bridesmaid or whatever, it's not always what happens the first time around.
Yeah, I had a listing that one of my greatest clients who had done so many flips, it was a luxury listing, it was her own house. I listed that house for an obscene number because she had a dream, and I said, okay, I'll go with that number. I lost the listing. I lost it to 2 agents. Then I lost it to the Young Team. Then they sold it, and I was like, yoo-hoo! And then you come back around, and I just listed her really nice luxury listing, and I got it under contract, and now we represent her as a buyer. But I maybe wasn't ready I didn't have the experience back then to even think that I could have a luxury listing. I think it came down to that. And so, but yes, I stayed in touch. Yes, she's still my friend. Yes, I never would have, to me, it's not about the money or I didn't get the listing. It's about, was it the best outcome for my friend, the client, who, yes, she's been my client for 18 years, and yes, she's back around now.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, 2 quick questions, then we'll open up to the group. Amanda, what is one non-negotiable you've learned that makes or breaks an appointment?
I think Stephanie kind of hit on it earlier, just not really listening. Like, are you actually listening to their goals and what their previous struggles were? If your marketing strategy and your proposal does not align with that, why are they going to pick you? It's like, did you even listen to me when you were there? So I think that's crucial. Yeah,
for me, it's being on time. And there are occasions, I've forgotten one listing appointment in my life, and I died. And no, I didn't get the listing. I didn't, and I shouldn't have. And I have, when you're just late, there is a late that just happens, and you get flustered. You don't have a great listing appointment if you're not on time. So my mantra is, you're always showing up, you're always on time, you're always prepared, and then you're going to get the listing.
I've been told I got a listing because I was on time or early.
Yeah, people appreciate that. Yeah. Efficient, be on time, say what you're going to do, and when you've done what you said you'd do, tell them you did it.
Steph, what about for you?
I mean, I agree with both of those things. I guess for me, I will say it's the pre-listing phone call. Like, I don't like walking into an appointment blind. I think it is incredibly difficult to build that rapport for the first time face-to-face when you're standing in their house. So for me, even if it's 3 minutes, I want to have a conversation with them, connect over the phone, confirm the appointment, understand what's important. And I think when I do that, my conversion is higher than in the times where they're like, sorry, I'm just busy. It's like, okay, great. And I can kind of know how that appointment is often going to go because I just couldn't get the time of day from them to start.
Love it. All right, so let's end on one question before we open to the group. We've talked about, obviously, the 3 are consummate professionals. So many listings you guys have won, but give me one memorable story, horror story, what happened and what did you learn from it?
Well, this one really wasn't my fault. I blame my ISA, but we got him in line shortly after. He told them that I was coming because I had an investor buyer ready to write an offer. I did not know that going into it, so I sat down with the husband and the wife ended up throwing a fit because she's like, what do you mean, when am I ready to hit the market again? I'm not listing with an agent again. And I said, maybe there was a miscommunication with Noah. I apologize, but she was really upset, and then she literally yelled at her husband in front of me, and I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, because he's the one who took the call. So I guess just be transparent about your intent for the meeting. Don't bait and switch them, I guess.
Amanda, what about for you? Horror story that you learned something from?
Horror would not remain in my mind, so I can't pull out horror. I know I've sweated it when I'm not prepared. Like when Stephanie was saying, get as much information as you can about the house so you're not walking in with, little information or the wrong comps. I've sweated it back in my early years when I didn't know areas like Chagrin Falls. I literally, I went out to listing appointments and I remember not being prepared, and I was entirely in the wrong price point. I did not do the work, did not ask the questions, didn't know this, what they had actually done to their house, because it sure didn't look very nice on what I pulled up. And I was in the complete wrong frame of mind. And at that point, I asked them for a second appointment. But I already lost the rapport because I wasn't prepared. So I think the horror for me is not feeling prepared. That's kind of sweating it, and then your heart is racing and you're like, shit, I don't even know how to. I think as you get more experience with this business, you can, when that happens and you're entirely wrong for some reason, you can quickly pivot. It's easier for us to pivot the more experienced you are. But yeah, it's just feeling like I'm out of control because I just do not know how to price this house.
Steph?
All of that is not ideal. I've been on appointments like both of those, and I told Josh this earlier. He's like, oh, come on, that's nothing. But for me, it was actually this past weekend, like I had a pre-listing call, our ISA talked to them. 10 minutes before I'm about to be at this appointment, I'm already more than halfway there. He texted me and he's like, hey, my soon-to-be ex-wife and daughter are home. They weren't supposed to be. They don't know I'm considering selling the house. Like, I need you to pretend you're an insurance agent. I was like, cool.
Oh my God.
Josh is like, that's happened to me like 10 times. I'm like, what?
An insurance agent. I don't even know this.
So a lot of time it's like window salesperson, it's like.
So I was like, why don't we just reschedule? Like, I can come a different day. It's not an issue. He's like, no, I need you to come now. Like, my work schedule is insane. Like, this is the only time I have. I'm like, cool, can we at least talk outside for a few minutes? So I talked to him for literally 2 minutes on the driveway before the wife came flying out the front door, and she's like, what are you doing here? Who is this? And I was like, okay.
Did you say I'm Danielle from insurance?
I'm from State Farm. No.
Wow.
So yeah, I just took videos and pictures, and I mean, we were getting this person a cash offer, which I needed pictures and videos for. So that's what I did, and I was in and out in 10 minutes, and it was very interesting. So.
Love it.
TBD.
Oh, so this is recent.
Yeah, real recent. All right, that's incredible. As you guys see, it's not all perfect up there, but would love to open it up to all of you. Great opportunity to ask some questions. We got 3 incredible listing agents up here.
I'm curious about luxury listings. If your agency is focused on luxury and somebody at Maple Heights hits you up with a $98,000 bungalow, are you just referring it off? Do you have a sub-agency you're dealing with? How do you guys handle things that are outside your,
I tell them that, well, it's our slogan anyway, but luxury is an experience, not a price point. I live in the Akron area. I got started with investors and flips. I have a $75,000 listing right now. So I do all price points. So,
Okay.
yeah. So.
You're not doing
It depends. Like if I just know it's going to be way too much for work and I'm just overloaded, then I might refer it out or just not even take a referral and just,
Right.
yeah.
I've always taken all price points. So my limiting belief over the years has been that I'm not a luxury agent. And that's something I've had to overcome because I can do luxury. This year I've only sold maybe 10 houses and at least 3 of them have been over $1 million. So for me, that's a higher price point. One of my most rewarding sales was $40,000 in Maple Heights, where they had a disabled ramp that was worth more than the house, and it was off of a main road, and the next perfect buyer would have been someone that was disabled that needed to use the bus. And we found that buyer. And what that deal was one of the most heartwarming because that ramp was it was beautiful. And the person that referred it to me, it was part of like when somebody goes in a nursing home and you have to pay back either the federal government or somebody.
Yeah.
So they just said, just list it, and I did it. And how many more deals did I get from that? I mean, unlimited and it was so rewarding. I'll never forget that little house.
Steph?
I mean, I am not exclusively a luxury agent, and I agree, like some of my best clients have come from a lower price point because they were selling mom and dad's house or an investment property, and I showed them what I was capable of doing, and now they've trusted me with their family home and the much more expensive properties, so yeah.
Love it. What other questions we got? Janelle?
I just heard something the other day, I read something, and it said that consistency is not just discipline, it's trust. So is there a certain process that you did and continued to do because you felt that it was working for you and then resulted in something good? Because this industry takes a long time to get going, and once you go and you're off set sail. And so is there a process that it wasn't working, but you're like, I get it, I know this is gonna work, that you just kept being consistent with that led to some success?
So like in order to get to a point where you get a listing, what did you do?
Yeah.
I would say open houses, sorry, but not sorry. If you want to build a business and you feel like you have no clients, go show up. It's only your time. Go find, if it's not your own open house, or go to your team, go to your market center, and you show up for open houses. For me, consistently showing up, knowing my market, for back then when I started with Shaker Heights, people seeing me again and again and again, built my first 10 deals. They came from open houses. And I think open houses is one of our top 4 sources, number 4 for our sources this year. People like and trust you if you continue to just show up with your time. It only costs you your time. And preparation, preparing well. There are people that can really do well at open houses because they use sign-in, they do door knocking, they signpost it effectively. And there are some that are just doing it for the seller. Again, just pick your poison. You can do either one. It depends on what you signed up to do.
Steph, Amanda, any additional thoughts?
Maybe just social media. Like if you're going to do social media, be consistent with it. Like don't just dabble here and dabble there. I've gotten some significant leads off of it. I definitely don't go above and beyond. I'm not doing reels and TikToks and all that. It's just not my personality. But if you're telling the story, so how you helped somebody, that might resonate with somebody else. So don't be, afraid to post and share those experiences, I guess.
Steph?
I think for me, it's just consistently touching your database. Like this is not an instant gratification industry as much as we all would love for it to be. Like that's just not how this works. So I think just always staying top of mind, ensuring that your clients think of you when they think of real estate, through whatever form that is, keeping them on drips, home value emails, pie date invites, client pop buys, like just staying in front of them. I just got a call yesterday where Danielle was like, where did that come from? I was like, my sphere, right? Like I helped them sell an investment property last year. It was not a great situation. We ended up having to evict like the tenant and it was a whole thing, but I remained professional. We figured it out and they called me to come list their own personal home, which is worth infinitely more than the house I sold for them last year. So
It's incredible. Other questions? Go ahead, please.
So when you're doing the listing agreements and they were to push the price, I think that's the
Push it price.
Push it. And are you setting a precedent or having them sign a price reduction like in 2 weeks, like ahead of time, so that you can't, I don't know. I just sometimes I see how quickly these agents are able to get the price reduction within exactly 2 weeks. I'm like, wow, are they setting that up ahead of time with those sellers? Because sometimes sellers are willing to do that price reduction.
This is a great question. How do you guys handle this?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, it depends on the client and the situation, how stubborn they are. But if it comes down to, you don't want to deal with it in 2 weeks and fighting them, like she said, we don't want to be fighting them the whole time. So write it in the additional terms of the listing agreement that this price will happen on this day if we've not sold it.
And have them sign that day.
Amanda?
Yeah, I would say that is always my intention because it's professional to do so. It's another expectation. You talked about it and you're doing that check-in. So if it's a 2 week, you're checking in with them and you're giving it an expectation. We're going to check in 7 days and maybe 10 days and then 14 days because you might actually take it down earlier. Because I'll say, the market is very forgiving if you adjust quickly. And I think that's, an important thing for them to know. But if they trust you, have I done it without writing it in? Yes. Because I feel like, we kind of dismiss how it feels like to be a seller, but it's a really stressful thing if your house doesn't sell in the first 2 days. It's like, I am being rejected here, right? Or if you're getting lots of showings and no offers, you're feeling like utter rejection. So we have to understand what that feeling is and check in very much more so that we can adjust quickly to get it right.
Steph, do you write it in or how do you handle it?
I wrote it in oftentimes back in 2012, 13, 14 when the market was a much softer and there was a ton of inventory. I have not written in a structured price adjustment in a very long time for I think a couple of reasons. One, the reality is the market is slower right now overall, and I think the expectation that their house is going to sell in a week or two is not often correct anymore. And I think I'm keeping my eye on the data and making sure that we are on par and pacing with the other active listings. If I see that we're falling behind, okay, that's probably indicative of we're misaligned, right? Like the expectation of the buyer for the price is off. And I think for me, it's do I see a path forward? Are we so far off base that I don't even know that I can sell this house? I think in that case, I would consider it. But I think in most cases, a lot of my sellers, there's a path forward. It might not be on the timeline I want, but it still is their timeline and they're ultimately the ones in charge. I had a seller that I wanted them, I knew we were going to market overpriced. I knew I could get them to the number that would ultimately yield them a buyer. It took me a month and a half instead of 3 weeks, which is what I would have preferred, but we still got there.
I'll chime in on this. From my opinion, unless it is an exceptionally difficult client that like you're gonna struggle with, I would prefer not to write it in, because I think it devalues my value. Like it devalues myself and my expertise. We're gonna talk about at the listing appointment the next 4 steps of, if it doesn't sell, price adjustments. But I think there's so much nuance to the market of, are you selling a $200,000 house in Lyndhurst, or a $600,000 house in Shaker, or a $2 million house in Hunting Valley? And so it's like, I want to be able to review the market and our specific activity with them and customize a game plan. Like, sure, we might be saying 2 weeks or 4 weeks, but activity's been decent, and so let's keep it going another week. Or activity's been really poor, we need to speed this up. But I would say, when you see the agents that are getting this stuff up front, it's because they're doing a really good job, regardless if it's in writing or not. They're doing a really good job setting expectations with their clients at the listing appointment. We can start here. The market might or might not support it, but if you are a motivated seller, here's a path forward from price and marketing and all this stuff of how we get from today to eventually your house sold.
I think that you really need to ask your sellers how they like to be communicated with. Mm-hmm. And I think it's super important. And one little tidbit that I always do is, most of my sellers say they like to talk, and a lot of them say texting. Most of them don't look at emails anymore. So I'm leaving that appointment and I'm putting a text thread together that's called Bridge Street Winners or something cute, and we're all on the text thread. And then if we're doing this price adjustment in 2 weeks, if your push price doesn't work, when we are communicating, we are texting and I am calling them. And I am knowing what to say, because I'm scripted, that, guess what? This is so good that you've had all of these showings. When they're saying, we've had 20 showings and no offers. Great, my marketing's working. You're getting the showings, yippee. Like, I want them to know what's great about what's happening. And to your point, don't be so quick to make a price reduction if you don't get an offer in the first weekend, which, previously we list on a Friday and we're done by Sunday evening or Monday morning. So it's kind of knowing what to say about the marketing is working, the showings are happening, so I know that, again, positioning your price is working. It's just, let's look at the objections. Is there anything that we missed? Is anything standing out? Are they mentioning price? And being scripted and staying in touch, I think you don't have to do anything else, because they know you care and they know you're there. Because the worst thing is that you're just not showing up for them because you don't think that their price worked, but you're not freaking telling them how to fix it.
It's my recommendation in the market that we're in. If you do not get through 2 weekends,
right, 2 weekends,
you do not have enough data to make a assessment.
Same, 2 weekends. Give it 2 weekends.
You might come on the market on a Friday, and so you get 2 weekends in 10 days. You might come on the market earlier in the week and have 14 days or 15 days, but 2 weekends. All right, we're definitely over on time. Does anybody have one last great question?
I don't know if it's a great question.
Well, then sit back down. Wait, you're still sitting. Yeah.
I find it's really hard to even get them to answer the phone. Like, what's your secret
I
to
don't do
getting
it.
expired?
It's the ISAs. Yeah, so they're setting the appointments for me. And it's a lot of persistence. I can tell you, like, they'll be like, I've been on this guy for 6 months, so you get this signed, because I've been working at it. So I do my best.
What percentage of your business is from expireds?
Well, currently, probably, honestly, 75%.
Wow.
Yeah, this year has been.
Holy moly, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
That is
I think
amazing.
to put it in perspective, I think I've sold about 35 homes this year. 2/3 are listings, and yeah.
That is amazing. In a market that, those of us who've been in for a while, there's not a lot of inventory. It's definitely not a lot of expireds. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Our percentage.
I gotta ask one question though. What's coming? You guys, it sounds like you know what's coming in this market. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, please tell us.
Well, who was with NAR Lawrence Yoon at the Windows on the River 2 weeks ago? Holy moly, we are positioned in one of the best areas. First of all, our market has gone up 58% since 2020 overall. 58%. We have been like this on job growth. We've just been 20 years, the job growth hasn't gone up. but our prices have increased. We are positioned in the Midwest because we have so much to offer: affordability, infrastructure. What was they saying about the electric grid system for all the data banks that are coming in with AI? And we are so lucky. We are going to go like this in the next 10 years. If you compare us to Columbus, which we've always lagged behind, they have had incredible job growth. Their prices are higher than ours, and we are just poised. So I'm always talking to people about what an opportunity, first of all, for people to buy here. Investors, yeah, you can still invest here. Homeowners, be it living in the Midwest. And we are just like, we're so lucky as agents because we're just going up. Like the next 10 years is exciting. So I'm excited. Interest rates will come down. More buyers will buy. That's how I feel. And I'm like, we should all feel this way. And we should get that narrative out there instead of doom and gloom and, you know, crashing markets, which, yes, there are. There are very bad markets, but it's not ours.
I think let's leave it
Rah,
there.
rah, Cleveland.
Yeah.